I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Brian Koberger was arrested this morning at a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expecting to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT show. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. It's the weekend now, right? You know, it's Friday, so everybody should have, be a little bit more relaxed. I know a lot of you guys are off for the weekend. I'm not. I got to work tomorrow. Work never stops for me, but let's hear those little violins going off, for me having to work. I'm just glad I have multiple jobs. Well, anyways, let's put that out of the way. Welcome back. We're going to be talking about the Jack and Lilly Sullivan disappearance. This happened back in May 2nd, I believe. And there's been some sort of update, so to speak. And we're going to read what's going on, what's fixing to happen. It's not planned yet, apparently, but it's about to happen in the near future. We're going to ask a couple of questions like who, what, when, where, and why. And then think about it kind of logically, right? Let's think about it logically, what this means for the investigation, where law enforcement are because of this news, what this news means, where they might be searching, those type of things. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before we start, I want to say thank you to our members, our subscribers, our wonderful mods that are always here, keeping the sanity. Let's keep this peaceful. If you have a difference of opinion than I do, you're welcome to have it. Just be respectful. If you have the same opinion as me and somebody else is in the chat or in the comment section with a different of opinion, allow them to have it. It's okay. Just as long, let's just all keep it respectful. Because if you're disrespectful, whether you're on my side or their side or the truth side or upside down, sideways, just keep it respectful. All righty. Without that out of the way, thank you, Missy, for becoming the newest member. And I want to say thank you to Lori for $24.99 with Super Sticker. Thank you so much, Lori. Appreciate you here. All right. Without further ado, let's break it down. Let's find out what happened today. So RCMP says cadaver dogs will be deployed to search for missing Nova Scotia's children. Dogs trained to pick up scent on human remains. So this is where we're at in the investigation. They're going to go send out dogs that can pick up scent of the deceased. So it goes on to say cadaver dogs will soon scour for 2 children who disappeared in rural Nova Scotia more than 4 months ago. But RCMP maintain they do not have reason to believe Lilly and Jack Sullivan are dead. All right, so let's break down that first sentence there. They have no reason to believe that Lilly and Jack Sullivan are dead. So what does that mean? That means that in their investigation of the parents and of Cody Sullivan and the maternal grandparents and Daniel Martel's mom and Daniel Martel himself, they have found zero evidence that can connect them to either something that has happened accidentally or on purpose. So this is a brand new article, and this also kind of maybe tells us a little bit about who the source is of the information. If RCMP is telling them, this information about what they believe and don't believe, then that should be a pretty big clue as to who's the source of the information that's coming out here. It's RCMP. Lilly 6 and Jack 4 were reported missing on May 2nd when police received a 911 call from their mother saying that they had wandered away from their home in Lansdowne Station, a sparsely populated community in the Pictou County, about 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax. The disappearance sparked an extensive grid search that spanned 8.5 squared kilometers of mostly dense woods and involved about 160 ground search and rescue volunteers, service dogs, drones, and helicopters. The cadaver dogs trained to pick up scent on human remains were not deployed during that search. It goes on to say, RCMP scrutiny of missing Nova Scotia children, mother, stepfather suggests no criminal involvement. This, again, they don't believe that the parents are involved. And I think that this search is a big clue of that as well. And I'll explain why I think that. It goes on to say on Friday, police said there are searches planned, but would not say where and when, citing safety concerns. They did confirm the searches will not happen this weekend. All right, so let's break this down. This sentence here. There are searches planned, and obviously we're in September. It's not happening this weekend. Might happen in the next couple weekends. Is it because they're anticipating some of the foliage, some of the tree branches or the tree brush, the leaves to fall off the trees, and maybe perhaps they'll have access to certain areas they didn't have access before, and or maybe perhaps they'll have dogs, with better weather can go in and out of that area. I know in May, this place is up north, but if it's warm and it's humid out there, dogs and searchers will have a hard time staying out there for significant long period of time. And so is it because of the weather that they have these things searched or planned? The next thing is not citing where and when, citing safety concerns. So they don't want anybody showing up. So what does this probably mean? This means that they're going to be searching places that maybe sometimes possibly the public has access to it, right? Like, for instance, you don't need, like, if they were going to search inside of Daniel Martel's trailer or his mom's RV camper in the back, that's not necessarily a place where you're concerned that you're gonna have a safety concern of the public being in there, right? Now, out in the open somewhere, the woods, maybe even the property in the back and those type of things, yeah, 100%. But for it to be there, that this kind of tells me this is most likely not a search of the actual residents themselves. Also, I asked Janie if she had heard about this, and she said she found out on the news like everybody else. Now, remember who we said the source was. Now, let's think about this logically. The source is the RCMP. And if the RCMP was going to go out there and do a secret search, they obviously wouldn't be telling the public. Secondly, I asked her if they asked for permission to search her property yet. And at the time of this interview, or at the time of this podcast, she stated that no, they have not asked her. And so if they're not going in there with permission, they have to go in there with a warrant. And if you're going to go and get a warrant and things of that nature, you really don't make it public, right? And so you're not going to go to the news station and say, hey, we're going to go do a secret warrant or a secret, search of the area with cadaver dogs. Unlikely. based on the very first statement that we read, where they don't know if they're alive or deceased, there's no evidence of it. They probably, and like in the documents that we've read and gotten from the RCMP, have seen, they have no evidence to indicate that something of a criminal act occurring. And if you have zero evidence or zero grounds, that means you don't have any PC, which means if you don't have any PC, which is probable cause, you don't got anything for a warrant either. Right? So to me, them not asking at this point, them holding it off right now, but indicating that they are going to be doing searches, tells me that most likely this search is going to happen in the next few weeks. Once the tree leaves start to come down, once the foliage starts to break down, and there's some better avenues and means, and you can actually see further, right? You know, you with the leaves knocked off, you can see further into the wooded areas. And so I think that's what all this means at this point. But let's continue to read this. During a media availability Friday, Corporal Trimble said police have taken a number of investigative avenues, including the ground searches, following up on more than 800 tips and reviewing more than 8,000 videos. Deploying cadaver dogs is the next step in the investigation, he said. What's important is to remember that at this time, we don't have any definitive information to support that the children are deceased. We have to keep our minds open and look at all the investigative avenues. Timberlake. So here's the source. This is the first time I'm reading this, by the way. I've read the headlines, but I've not read the article. This is the first I read of it. This time, this is another example of utilizing all services that are available to our officers, and we have to remain patient. I know the public, our officers, we want to know what happened, and we're not going to stop until we find out what happened. There's an image of Belinda Gray, the paternal grandmother of Lilly and Jack. The children's paternal grandmother, Belinda Gray, says she wanted to jump up and down upon hearing of the news Friday. Gray has long called for cadaver dogs to be brought in. Nevertheless, she feels the investigation is not progressing quickly enough, and she's troubled by the lack of information being provided by police. I don't really agree with that there's been a lack of information provided by the police. I think this case here has had an abundance of information. You know, they came out and they talked about how they investigated this case. They talked about the multiple investigations or multiple interrogations of both Daniel and Brooks Murray. It referred about what it is that they turned over. It even shown some light on some of the things that they were suspicious about early on. You know, in one of the documents, it talked about how, you know, they were pressuring Daniel Martel, and he was getting some facts wrong. He said that he had went to the store on Wednesday, but it was Thursday, or vice versa. What are the other? It was not really anything of importance, but obviously his memory wasn't reliable, right? It wasn't very accurate. Doesn't mean he was lying. And he even says that in the document, says, I'm not trying to lie to you, but I've lost my family. I've lost this. Everybody is gone. And, I'm hurting. And he's going through a lot. And he's just, he's having trouble remembering, which is a natural thing when you're under duress and pressure. And, you have all this, finger pointing and eyes looking in your direction, including from law enforcement. He's not, those were statements that were made or that are typically made with somebody who's under some duress. They were pressuring him. And so, they talked about those things. They talked about how they passed the lie detector test, talked about in depth. I mean, it was quite extensive, the amount of information that they gave over to reporters about what had occurred. The ground searches, they talked about, some of the surveillance video that they've had. I'm not trying to be controversial when I say this. I just don't think that there's been a lack of information in this case. I think there's been quite a bit of information. And in my opinion, we have to wonder, why is it that they're giving so much in a time when they really don't give a lot of information, in a place that they don't give a lot of information? From what I understand, Canada is an area where they don't hand out the type of information that they've already disclosed when it comes out to, Lilly and Jack. that this is significantly more information compared to anywhere else, and out in Canada compared to any other case. And so I think that they've actually, we have to ask ourselves why. I think that the reason why law enforcement felt the need is because of the temperature of the true crime family, if you want to call it, society, cult, whatever we are that, consume true crime. There's a certain amount of folks who have taken it too far on certain things. And it's not just this case, it's on multiple cases. And, it gets dangerous. People have gotten hurt and people made threats. And my assumption is law enforcement doesn't want to feel responsible, that they are aware that Daniel and Brooks Murray had cooperated fully, never lawyered up, made several statements, turned over their phones, allowed for their phones to be downloaded and searched, including their banking information and their geolocations. They took a polygraph test. And so they don't believe that they committed any crime. And so could you imagine if some crazy person out there who is just buying into the conspiracy that somebody that one of these folks did something, and they go and take it upon themselves to go out there and do something and then commit a violent crime on innocent people? If law enforcement, you don't want that on your hands. So that, that's the only reason I can believe that they're putting out this information, is so that way they can turn down the temperature of some of these folks who perhaps are going a little too far. From what I understand in that area, and it's not just with Janie and Daniel, there's other people that live there whose name has popped up. And we've seen this in the Brian Koberger case, where it doesn't matter who you are, your name pops up, you automatically became some sort of suspect. It happened with the neighbor, it happened with the shops, it happened with the people at the grub truck, it happened with the people that came out in the corner club. Everybody became a suspect, because to the untrained eye in the true crime field, or whatever you want to call it, they almost look at this like a cast, like a movie, and there's a cast in the movie, and that they know all the cast members. And so the killer has to be one of the cast members that are there, not realizing this is real life, and there's multiple other people that could possibly be involved. Brian Koberger is a fine example of that, where everybody was wanting to blame one person here that was at the grub truck or the corner club, or this person that knew that person. And then when he came out to be somebody relatively unknown, they were shocked, surprised. So we got to take this with a grain of salt and do this with truth and logic, guys, with evidence. Let's take that approach. All right, let's continue this. They're finally doing something that, to me, should have been done a couple months ago. Now, do I think that the cadaver dogs should have been brought in a couple months ago? I'm not against it. I think that should have been done. I wonder why it wasn't done. And I bring up the question as to why now. And to me, I think it's because of the weather. And I think it's going to be because of what the weather has an effect on the landscape that's out there, and how it's going to make things more visible, more easy to navigate through, and possibly even, because it's cooler and things of that nature, allow for researchers or searchers and dogs to search longer. So I think that's the main reason, but that's just my opinion. I don't know for a fact, obviously. So, to me, should they have done it right off the bat? I don't see anything wrong with it. They definitely should have, in my opinion, could have. I don't know why they didn't. That is an interesting point by Miss Gray. It should have been, but that's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe it was too hot for the dogs. And then you also have the fact that maybe perhaps it was too hard to navigate at that time. Kind of like with Brian Laundrie, where there was some, and it was a little bit different because they had floods, obviously, but he was in a swampy area, and they needed the weather, or in that scenario, they needed the weather to calm down and the floods to go down so they can go find him. Here, maybe perhaps they just need things to be a little bit less dense so they can go and navigate through it. Let's see. Whose son, Cody Sullivan, is Jack and Lily's biological father, although he's not been in their lives for 3 years. It's really been a roller coaster. You get through your days and you just do the best you can Trimberly said police dogs were deployed during previous searches and trained to pick up on the scent of a living person or someone who had recently died. All right, so there you go. That's the reason why they didn't bring out a cadaver dog in the beginning, because the dogs that they did bring out were trained to have found somebody who had recently passed. And so if they had passed, it would have been considered recent. And so the dogs that they did deploy had the capabilities of finding them. Makes sense to me. Again, I not read this. That's why if I would have read this, I would have said this earlier. Oh, but the dogs that they did deploy would have, were able to pick that up. Staff Sergeant Pike, Program Manager of RCMP Police Dog Service Training Center, said human remains detection dogs are highly specialized and highly trained to detect distinct odor of decomposition. None of the roughly 6 to 8 dogs that are in service to Canada are based in Nova Scotia. He said there is one dog team, PEI, but they are not currently operational due to medical leave. And that's another reason why they probably couldn't get somebody out sooner. Somebody might have been on medical leave for an extended period of time. I'm not familiar with Canada and their law enforcement and their technology and what they have at their, discretion when it comes to tools like it is in the USA, right? In the United States, there's a federal agency in every major city, and you have agents in multiple jurisdictions. You can get dogs in multiple places, like all over the place. It's like dime a dozen at this point when it comes to some of the things that we have and the capabilities we have out here. It appears not to be the same out there. And so, unfortunately, and this kind of goes to my beliefs, is that the kids wandered off, right? That's what I believe. I think that if somebody did take them, there's some criteria that has to be matched. They did some geofencing and things of that nature. So to me, it's got to be somebody that lives in the area and probably wasn't too cooperative and a bunch of other things, right? I've gone down that, but I'm not sold on it. I'm more sold on the fact that they got away and got allowed a little bit further than people think. That's kind of where I've been. If I had to take a guess, I'd probably say 80% that's what it was. 20% they wandered off and someone picked them up. That's kind of where I sit on my, where I'm at on this fence. And so let's continue though. Sergeant Wallen and his dog Kit will join Inspector Reddy and his dog Narc to conduct the searches over the coming days and weeks. But it's not this weekend, so it's probably in the next week or two, to be honest with you. Both are based in British Columbia. Speaking generally, Pike said cadaver dogs are usually brought in when there's no reason to believe decomposition has taken place and other possibilities. When there is reason to believe decomposition has taken place and other possibilities, such as a person wandered off, have been ruled out. Doesn't make any sense. Cadaver dogs are usually brought in when there is reason to believe decomposition has taken place and other possibilities, such as a person has wandered off, have been ruled out. That's an interesting way to say that. I'm not sure if they're trying to say that a person wandering off has been ruled out, and that's why they bring in a cadaver dog. So that doesn't make any sense, because a person that wanders off can die out in the wilderness, and you can find them with a cadaver dog. So I'm not sure what they're trying to say there. Because it also says, when there's a reason to believe decomposition has taken place and other possibilities have been ruled out. Oh, kind of weird way to say it. All right. He said the success of the dogs depend completely on whether the odor is present and being released. If the remains are somewhere airtight, the odor may not be detectable. Okay, that's interesting. There is no definitive timeline on how long the scent can remain detectable. It depends on the size of the person, the environmental factors, said Pike. But he noted a case in which a dog uncovered material related to an investigation 2 years from the ocean floor at low tide. That's crazy. When I did some research on it, because I looked, like I said, all I saw was the title and And I kind of was like, all right, well, the first question I have, because it's been a while, is how long can a cadaver dog go out there and find remains? Apparently it's several years, actually. So if, these kids are out there, I'm not going to say that these dogs are definitely going to find it. It's a large area of wooded area out there, but there's a much better chance of these dogs finding them probably now, where there's less trees and stuff in the area and you can see, maybe even find something. I think there's that possibility. Hold on, we got a Amber Alert going on right now here in San Antonio, Texas. Child abduction, suspect vehicle, a 2020 Nissan Kick, Texas license plate VTJ 8610. Missing child is Leah Calderon, 4-year-old white female. Suspect is Brittany Cepeda, 34-year-old white female. Keep an eye out there, guys. That's the Amber Alert that just came in. All right, let's continue this. They're also able to detect scents underwater and underground, even in challenging environments like septic fields or landfills. And dogs can be effective because human decomposition is unique. They don't rely on the visual. They take us to that foliage. They would take us to what's somewhat concealed or buried or whatnot areas. If there's odor present, the dogs can locate it, said Pike, who has been a dog handler for 25 years. In late August, CBC asked the RCMP if cadaver dogs would be deployed. A spokesperson said any searches for human remains will be based on information gathered through the ongoing investigation. Officers are continuing to assess information and forensic evidence, including that collected from the large search area. Those items included a pink blanket that was seized on Lansdowne Road early in the search. Court documents released in late August that revealed, as of July 16th, investigators did not believe the case was criminal in nature. It seems like that's still the case now, because one of the first things that it said there was, the very first thing they said was that RCMP maintained they do not believe or have reason to believe that Jack and Lilly are dead. And so if they don't have any belief that they're passed, that means they have no evidence whatsoever that they've either were harmed on purpose or accidentally. So let's see. There were spots they weren't able to check, as mentioned in the docs. Yeah, for sure. There was a few spots that they weren't able to check. They only got half a kilometer out with the thermo and the drones, right? And that was in the documents. And the only reason they got half a kilometer out was because of the batteries dying and things of that nature. Then they did some specific searches in certain areas, but it's not like they searched every inch of that of 8 square kilometers. That's not nowhere near factual. And so because they didn't do that, there's a good reason or purpose to believe that they're doing this now, their due diligence. But I think there's a lot of information here. If they maintain that they don't believe that they've passed, that must mean that they don't have any evidence that the parents killed them. Right? You can't have one without the other. You can't have evidence of a foul play and then also not believe that they've or have any evidence that they've passed. You get what I'm saying? Can't have one without the other. Let's see. And they did have dogs go out there that were able to find somebody that recently passed. Let's see. And this was just here recently. What's important to remember is this time we don't have any definitive information to support the children are deceased. But we have to keep our minds open and look at all investigative avenues. So what does that mean? That means that all their other investigative avenues have come to a close too. Whether it was investigating Daniel, Janie, Brooks Murray, Malaya, her parents, her family, they've probably gone through all those and exhausted that investigation. And so they're circling back. Now, I think that this is happening now more so because of the weather and the weather changing and things of that nature. But this is also probably evidence that they've not found anything out of their other investigative means. So going back here, like I said, I strongly suspect that these kids wandered off. I was talking with Janie earlier, and one of the things that she told me was that, and I want to word this the right way. The kids, Jack and Lily, they would go out there and back there when they had visitors come over who had children of the same, a little bit older. She had some children there that had been a little bit older, and they all would go back there. And she had told me that Jack would stop and play with the bugs and things of that nature. But one of the other kids would go out there and they put some things in their backpack, like snacks and stuff. They go out into the wood area and then they come back. And one of the things that I thought was, Jack and Lily are very young. They're very impressionable. And Janie still says to this day, she does not believe they're in the woods. She said they wouldn't have gone out there. Jack wasn't the type of person to be in the woods. They're very young. It's kind of like they're not interested into something until they are, right? I mean, little boys aren't interested into girls until one day it changes, right? Or girls, boys, whatever you want to say it, but you aren't, especially at the young age, you may not wander off today, but that doesn't mean that you don't become a wanderer, or you don't wander off later, or you may. And I try to tell this to Janie. I was like, there are many conversations that I've had with parents whose kids did something that they would have never thought they would have done. Sometimes it's things that their kids did bad or didn't do, or were a part of, or skipped out, or whatever the case may be, right? And these were young kids. To me, just because they never went out before on their own doesn't mean that they didn't go out this time. And in my conversations with her, I feel that it's very plausible that they've seen, other kids go back and forth outside, and I think they're impressionable, and I think that they may have followed their suit. Now, why did they close the sliding glass door? So let's think about this logically. What happened that morning? What was going on? Kids were being loud. They woke up Meadow. Parents knew about them because they were being loud. I strongly suspect that, I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel or Malaya told them to keep it down at one point. So then they go outside, close the back sliding glass door because they've already been told to keep it down, and they go out there and play. There's a lot of things that could have happened, as to why they may have done this or done that. But to me, I think that they ended up going out there and wandering off. Now, the fact that they're going out here and searching, where obviously based on what they're saying, it don't sound like they're going to search the house of Daniel Martell or of Janie. It doesn't sound like they're going to search too far off of their property. I don't know how big their property or their land is, but they didn't even ask them yet, right? Now, they're going to have to ask them. They're not just going to just walk on the property. They got to get permission, RCMP, right? They don't necessarily need a warrant, but if they thought that something tangible was in, their possession or that they knew where it was at, why would they inform the public about this? You know what I'm saying? They're going to keep it close to the vest, show up with a warrant, say we're searching your property, and then bring in the dogs. There's absolutely zero reason to make it public beforehand. You just put yourself in a weird position, because then they can destroy some evidence. They can do some certain things, which they've already allowed them to search, and they didn't find anything before. I'm not sure they're going to find anything now, but you get what I'm saying? So to me, this sounds like they're going to search areas probably off of that pipeline, probably where the pink blanket was found, some of these other areas that they weren't able to get to when the foliage was crazy, those type of things. All right. Put a couple stars, guys, if you guys want to ask a couple of questions. If you guys want to come on board, I got about 20 minutes. If anybody wants to join me, let me know. I'll how do I do this? Call in. Yeah, I do it like this. So you shouldn't, if you want to come on board, if you have your, let me do this. Let me share it real quick. We're going to have a little call-in show. But I need a pin. I got to pin this on. So if you have your thoughts, your theories, be respectful. I will block you. If you come up, I'm not going to show you. You're just going to be able to talk. Give you about 2-3 minutes, and say what you got to say, what you think is your evidence and stuff like that. And we'll go forward from there. Let's see. Invite guests. Paste that. All right. If you want to join me, you want to jump up here. I put the link in the description. I'm going to pin it at the top. Come on in. Welcome to the DT show. I want to make sure I got something that's going to cover the whole thing. Hold on. Does this work? No, nothing happened. No, that doesn't happen. What happened? That's weird. I'm putting up an overlay. Oh, there it goes. It's working on. Oh, it works for you guys, but it don't work for me. That's weird. There it goes. Now it's working for me. All right. Let's see. Yeah, if you want to jump on in, we got somebody in. Let's see what's going on.
Whoa, I came in quick. I thought you'd have 100 people waiting.
Not yet. Not yet. What's going on?
Hey, Dan, I'm Travis Williamson. I'm up in the Austin area. I'm an attorney up here. But I didn't know if you knew HRD dogs, human remain detection, is what they like to call them versus cadaver. But Texas State University, you know where that's up. That's between you and me in San Marcos. They have a body farm. Body farm is where people donate their bodies to science.
Yeah.
And they're in various states of decomposition. And it's part of the forensics program at Texas State, which is a very, very good program. But a lot of dogs are trained, cadaver dogs are trained and certified at that body farm. And I've been down there for some of those trainings and certifications, and it's super amazing what those dogs can do. There's kind of a misconception that they can go and sniff in a car and tell that a body, a deceased human being, was in that car at a certain time. That's certainly true within a day or two, but not so much after this much of time, unless a lot of the bodily fluids, that a natural part of decomposition, a lot of fluid comes out of you when you decompose, because we're mostly water, right?
Yeah.
Unless there's a lot of pooling, they can't tell. And there's a lot of misconceptions that these dogs will walk around and smell and alert, and that means that there at some point there was a dead body there. That's really not the case at this stage. What they're looking for is remains. They're looking for a body, and that can be buried. They can be all the way down to bones. An HRD dog can detect an ancient burial ground 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, and it depends on a lot of things, like you said, how much wind, how it's working. But, the trainings I saw, they bury a deer, they bury a wild turkey, they bury remains of animals in this area. And the dog's walking down the road, and all of a sudden snaps its head to the right. And about 100 feet in, we don't have woods like they do in Canada here in Texas. You know that. When they say dense woods in Canada, that's a whole different universe, right? But still, it's a wooded area. This is a big giant ranch that they do all this on. But it snapped its head to the right and just made a beeline for this area went past a buried dead deer, went past and they do this double blind, meaning they don't tell the handler, obviously they don't tell the dog, um, where it is, because dogs can cue off the handler, right?
Mhm.
We all know that if we're dog owners, dogs can pick up cues.
Yeah.
So they don't tell the handler, hey, you're going to want to take your dog over to this area. Um, it's just like, hey, there may be remains out there, there may not. Take your dog and work them, and we'll grade you. But that dog snapped its head to the right, went into the woods about 100 feet, and did its alert. I can't remember if it was to lay down or bark, but they're all trained to alert differently.
Right.
But sure enough, that's where one was, and they don't dig them up, but you have to reward the dog. There's this whole process that you reward them when they're successful and ignore them when they miss. But if you ever want to go up there and watch them do that at some point, you let me know and I'll get you an invite.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, yeah. Email me. Email me so I can get your email. Don't put it on the air, because then you'll get you'll get so many random people emailing you. But yeah, email me and I'd love to do that. Yeah. So in this scenario, we got a couple of kids. Let's just say that they wandered off, and now they're obviously it's been 4 months. They probably wouldn't be with us anymore if they're out there. And in that scenario where you have animals out there probably scavenging, this happened in the summertime or just before summer, so this is when in the height of the animals scavenging and things of that nature. This is when most of them are out and about. You're not finding yourself a situation where most animals are hibernating or doing those things in the wintertime where you might come across a full skeletal remains. So there's a good likelihood that there's going to be some scattered stuff. How accurate do you think those dogs can get to find something that's been scattered? If they don't come across, given 4 months, could they come across like a femur or something that's been moved by an animal that was either the reason why they passed, or if they succumbed to the elements and scavenged, and then that is moved away from the scene of where they passed? Because as you mentioned with the fluid and stuff, if they find the scene where they passed, that might be helpful. But if they come near like a bone or something, can they pick that, those small things up?
I'm no expert in it, but from what I've read, so there's another specialized HRD dog that smells just for blood.
Yeah.
And which is a little bit different, but it's blood that's on the ground and has decomposed. But a blood trained HRD dog can smell drops of blood so small you can't see them with a human eye.
Interesting.
Now, with regard to non-blood detection dog, I've heard of instances where it's just been part of an appendage, part of an arm or part of a leg, that they can go down that small, and which I don't want to be too gruesome about things, but
Right.
People are familiar with I can't remember how long Casey Anthony was found. It was several months after, right?
Yeah.
Or a year after. So there's still, that's enough. Cadaver dog could have located, because that's those two main scents. I put them in chat that they're trained to alert on: putrescine, and the other one I mentioned, those two things are very, very distinct. And a lot of times when there's foul play afoot, people are buried in shallow graves. Those two scents emanate through the ground and come up, and that's really what they're detecting. And then the ones in water, like you mentioned, they're not smelling the body per se in the ocean in 6 feet of water. They're smelling their VOCs, actually. They're emanating, they float up through the water, come up on top, and they alert there's something down there that's putting off these chemicals, these compounds. I would think even if they were, and there's going to be insect and animal depredation on any type of remains, whether it's animal or human, and they are going to be spread. But from what I've seen in the past, this amount of time in wooded areas, if there are remains, human remains, it would be no problem for a properly trained and certified HRD dog. I actually like a theory I heard, I think last week it was, you had, that made a lot of sense to me. Do you have other people waiting? I don't want to hog up
No,
your
no, no,
time.
you're good. You're good. You're good.
So I think you were co-oping it with another channel, Criming Shame, who I worked with a long time ago on explaining appellate cases. But you had mentioned something that really intrigued me that is super plausible. If there's no evidence of something weird going on with the parents, and they could have wandered off, and that looks pretty logical, that they got scared by something and panicked and ran into, again, their dense woods in Canada. They're never coming out. They are never coming out. That made a lot of sense to me. Your theory about that made a lot of sense. But it's just hard to fathom for us that, in San Antonio, Austin, even the hill country, because it's just hard to fathom that a child could wander off to the point where you couldn't hear it or see it. I've hunted in those woods in North Canada for moose, and because of that, I don't have as tough a time visualizing that a very extensive human search without cadaver dogs could have come up empty.
Yeah. I would have been impressed if they found them, after the first day. The first couple of hours, obviously they haven't gone very far, but if they didn't, catch them the very first day, I would have been impressed because of how dense those woods are, and everything else. I mean, there's been multiple searches that have been done in less dense areas that have resulted in nothing, that later on somebody stumbled across something and found something. It's happened multiple times. And when it comes to these kids too, I was looking up the 411. There was a kid, I think it was in Arizona, like in northern Arizona where it's wooded. He traversed like 9 miles.
Yeah, you were mentioning that in that show last week, and that child was 3 or 4.
2 years old.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, it's just utterly amazing. The one way I describe it, the best analogy I have, these moose, they walk into these dense woods, and you're just like, how on earth with their rack that wide can they do it? But they do, and they disappear within a couple of feet. It's like that movie Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, and he builds a baseball field in a cornfield, and the players, after they're done, walk into the cornfield and they kind of disappear after taking 2 steps. It's literally like that. You just cannot see them at all, and it's extremely difficult to navigate in there. But boy, it was a real pleasure to talk to you face to face, so to speak, virtually. Really enjoy what you do. I just became a
Thank you.
subscriber when y'all did that show, and I've caught a show or two since then, and really enjoy what you do. But I'm going to get off unless you have any questions. Make room for some other people.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming in. It was great talking to you. Send me that email. I'd love to check out the cadaver dog stuff. That seems so interesting. I'd be down for that. But yeah, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, and it's great to have a fellow Texan right down the road doing this stuff.
Yes, sir.
All right.
You have a great night, man. Take it easy,
you
Travis.
too. A great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. That was a great call, Travis and Austin. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Travis, for that. That was awesome. And this is what I wanted to bring up real quick. So, this is NBC News. It was actually 7 miles. Missing toddler who walked 7 miles alone through Arizona wilderness led to safety by rancher dog. A 2-year-old boy who spent the night alone in the remote Arizona wilderness had walked 7 miles through mountain lion territory was led to safety by a rancher dog, authorities said Tuesday. Huge search operation was launched when a boy disappeared from his home in Seligman, Arizona, about 100 miles south of Grand Canyon National Park, about 5 p.m. Monday. He was wearing just a blue tank top and pajama pants. The sheriff's office said that more than 40 rescuers, including Department of Public Safety rangers, joined the search, and DPS helicopters spotted 2 mountain lions in the area. So similar to this scenario here with the kids in Nova Scotia, helicopters in the area, tons of searchers right away. 16 hours he went missing. The rancher, Scotty Dutton, found him on his land 7 miles away. The boy was safe and well, had apparently been led to his property by the ranch dog. I got in my truck to go to town and see Buford walking down the side of the fence with a little blonde kid with him. I had heard about the missing child this morning. I knew it was him. And here's a picture of the dog. Dutton asked the boy if he had walked all night, and he answered no. I laid up under a tree. The bee farmer said the boy was in good shape but upset. The rancher traced the boy's steps and found the dog had escorted him for at least a mile. So he went on his own for 6 miles. So this is where one of the situations where I'm telling you guys, these kids could have gotten out a lot earlier than what they, anticipated. Let me see. I want to see if there's other ones that are very similar to this situation. Okay. Young child. Because I know there was a few of them. And one of them was like super crazy. It was like a 4-year-old that walked like a tremendous amount. And they found him also. And so just kind of letting you guys know that this is where that's at. Anybody else wants to join us, please, it's linked. Just hit the button. You'll be able to come on in. We'll put you up. You won't see your face. We'll hear your voice. As long as you stay peaceful or respectful, we'll keep you on. And not, I'm going to do this for the next probably about 10, 15 minutes. If you have any questions for me, please put a couple of stars there so that I know you're talking to me. They ain't getting 9ME in the woods unless they're on a path. Right, 9 miles in the woods unless they're on a path where you're at. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a possibility there. But, I mean, when I looked at the area from Google Earth, let me see if I can pull that up real quick. And the reason why I want to look it up from Google Earth is because obviously, they may not have gone 9 miles directly into the dense part of the woods. They could have gone down a trail for 5 miles, then get spooked at some point, and then go into the dense part of the woods. There's a lot of possibilities here. Which one was it? Was it this one? I hope it is. Oh, dang it. I don't have it. I was hoping I had the let me see if I have it here. It's Timothy D's case. Oh, this is not the right one either. Dang it. I may not have the Google Earth set up for it. Let me see if I can get the address real quick, and I'll plug it in. I'm going to see if I can find this real quick so I can plug it in, and then we can go for there. You guys have the address, so I can just pop it in real quick. That'd be great. Maybe I found it here. Location. Oh, here it is. Here are the coordinates. All right. So here are the coordinates there. So if they went down like this here, if they came down this road, and we could just pick out any road here, and they just started walking down this path here, I mean, they could have easily turned like this direction, not knowing, and then, continued walking down this trail. Look at that. I mean, you can walk a significant amount of miles down this area through these trails. All right, give me 1 second. We got another caller coming in. Let me make sure I got everything set up. What is up, caller? How's it going? What is up, Kent? How you doing, my man? You're on mute.
Not bad. Yourself?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Just another day in paradise, right?
What do you think of the movement in the case today?
I think it's kind of telling, to be honest with you. I think it's very telling. I think it tells me that they're back to square one by searching the area. And I think that it probably also leads me to believe that they may still believe that the kids wandered off. What do you think?
Well, I think this is what people asked for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what we're getting. We're at the point of the investigation where they might not have been able to go any further. So by calling in specialty dogs, we'll hopefully get the answers one way or the other. But what happens, like, what would a lot of people be thinking? And I said this today on Sunny Show. What will be a lot of people's thoughts if the dogs come in and we suspect that one of the properties that they'll want to search is the property where the children were last seen? Although we don't know that, but common sense would tell you that would be a starting point and working out from there. But what will people read into it if they don't alert?
Well, I mean, just kind of looking at this area, there's a lot of woods there. There's a lot of woods. This is a tremendous amount of woods in this area. I would be impressed if they found somebody out there. Not off the trail. I mean, if they found somebody off the trail, I mean, yeah, that's one thing. But like, if somebody went off the trail a little bit, it would it'd be impressive if they found somebody in these type of woods. It's very dense. It looks to be very, very dense.
Well, it's very scatterbrains. after the hurricane. Like, and it wasn't your show that I heard it on, but in the last couple of weeks, I've heard them saying, "Oh, well, it's coming in the fall. The sky cover is going to be disappearing because the leaves are going to be falling." People, 90% of the trees in this area are evergreens, pines, firs, spruces. So they're not the best chance that they had to see through the coverage with whatever technology you want was at the point when the children went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I just hope, and I don't want people to turn it around, because some people you'll never convince otherwise, but others, if they don't alert, to me, that means they either weren't dead when they left the property, or they, how do I want to word this? Oh, I lost my train of thought. Sonny,
Well, if they don't alert, you think they're not there or what?
well, that's what there was two things that I was trying to get at there. And one, that they weren't dead when they left the property, or it's just that there no human remains sent there. It doesn't mean, like, I can see some people coming back on the RCMP and trying to say, "Oh, well, you took too long to bring in the dogs. Like, they couldn't pick up the scent." Like, we all know that that's not the case, but because they can find bones and remains that are 30, 40, 50 years old. So I want people to allow the investigation and see the results of the cadaver dogs, whatever it is. It's going to take if they alert or not alert, it's going to take the investigation to a direction where it's going to go, evidence-wise. And I hope that the public doesn't just turn it around and jump on RCMP and start making excuses. "Oh, well, you took too long to bring them in," or "they had a chance to move them." Like, it don't matter. If there was ever scent there, they're going to find it. Like, they say there's a 94% approval, or not approval, but success rate.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm asking you, though, is if they don't alert, what do you think, and where do you think that leaves the investigation? Are you saying that if they don't alert, that then you believe they wandered in the woods alive and died in the woods? Is that what you're getting at? Or what?
I think that's most likely what happened based on their actions today, of them wanting to go in there, because they're not one, they haven't asked, they haven't asked Janie or Daniel if they can search their property or any of those things. And they
won't until they won't in advance until they decide, okay, today's the day that we're here. They'll go up and they'll ask them if they're allowed to search the property, and if they say no, somebody will be on the way behind them with a search warrant.
With what PC? They have no grounds of anything. I mean, that's what they've said. I don't know how many times when it comes to them. They have zero evidence to believe that they have committed a crime in this case.
We covered this, Daniel. If you go under the Missing Persons Act in Canada, and this is why it's still classified as a missing persons case rather than a criminal case, is because they have a lot less responsibility under the Missing Persons Act than they do.
But you're still violating somebody's rights. You're still violating somebody's rights. So you probably have to have some form. Now, I don't live in Canada, so I don't know how their rules are out there. But the other thing is, too, this information came from RCMP that they're going to be searching out there. If they were going to go do this and say and do this surprise knock and talk, and then try to get them to either say yes and then come in with a warrant after the fact, why put it out to the news and warn them this far in advance?
Well, we talked about that today, and the one thing that I said, and I don't know if this is true, but in my own respect, I can see them releasing this information to the media that it's going to happen is because all the speculation online and backlash, or whatever you want to call it, over the last 2 weeks has been surrounded the issue of the dogs.
Right, but the backlash of the people have nothing to do with the possible screw up of the investigation. You're not going to go and say, hey, you know, these folks over here want answers. We're going to come in there with a surprise knock and talk with the dogs and try to get them caught
really
off guard.
surprise.
No, it's not a surprise at all. They've gone out there and told everybody. And so
Exactly.
for me, you know, for me then, because it doesn't then this element of we're going to go and knock, and if you tell us no, we're going to get a warrant. It doesn't jive. Plus, why not do that now? Why wait a few weeks?
Well, we're not saying a few weeks. This could be happening in a matter of days, they said.
I'd say it's not happening this weekend.
Yeah, well, days is Monday. Where the big thing is if this was just put in progress today, and the fact where we learned that the dogs are having to come from, one is coming from southern Alberta, one is coming from lower mainland BC, because the only one that's in the Maritimes right now is in PEI, and we don't know if it's a situation with the handler or with the dog, but for some reason, the one that's in PEI isn't capable of coming to Nova Scotia in the acceptable timeline to the investigators. So they're bringing dogs in from Alberta and BC.
Right.
So
how long could that possibly take? Like, how many extra days could that possibly take? I mean, we got planes, we got some extra stuff. Right.
But
so
you want to have them dogs. You want to have them fly across the country.
Right. But you think that I'm just kind of I'm spitballing here, and so are we thinking that? So we're thinking that they're going to fly them out there. Do you think also that they just decided today, hey, we're going to do this search, and the same day that they decided that they reached out to the media to tell them?
No, I'd say they probably found out this week. I'm just thinking amongst myself, spitballing. They might have been hoping whatever this situation is with the dog in PEI, that he would have been able to come last week or maybe this week, right? But whatever's going on, and we don't know if it's the dog or the handler, maybe they got word this week, hey guys, we have no idea when I'm going to be able to travel or when the dog's going to be able to travel. So if you want to get dogs in there in the next little bit, whatever that is, week, 2 weeks, I can tell you that I'm not available. You better start looking for ones from somewhere else.
Right. But what does that have to do with contacting the media?
I'm not saying that it has to do with the contacting on the media. I think the contact with the media, we've all listened and heard Janie, and Janie is the one that you got to talk about here because we suspect that the property is in her name. I can't state that for sure. So she's the one that would have to give permission. And with the talk all this week about Bring Me Home coming in and them saying, well, no, the only one that's going to be searching the property is RCMP. So they may consider that they already have permission to bring dogs in and take them through the property.
Yeah, considering it, I mean, that's making an assumption, and in law enforcement, that's a dangerous thing to do.
I understand that,
and I don't believe that would be the smart move to make. if you're going to go in there, and to me, there's a couple of things here. Timing, because all right, they could have done this. Maybe they succumbed to the pressure. I don't think so. To be 110% honest with you. And I think it more has to do with, and the reason why it's not happening this weekend, I do think that they are letting the public know in a very, very odd way, not an odd way, in a very telling way of where they're at. They're saying, hey, we're going to do a search and we're going to search a certain area. We're not going to tell y'all where because we don't want people to come out there and intrude. And so that kind of tells me that it's most likely not private property and people's inside their home, because how are people from the public going to intrude on those type of searches? And so it seems like
I'll guarantee you, except for the one on the property and, like you say, in the trailer, but I'll guarantee you, the Warriors on Facebook, if they're searching somewhere next week and somebody drives by and they say, oh, we see 5 or 6 police officers, police vehicles in this area, wherever that is at, by the time they get home and an hour later, it'll be on. Oh, I've seen police vehicles in this area. They're searching here.
Right. I have no doubt that that's going to happen. But when it comes back to searching the property, you don't want to leave that to chance. You're going to go in there with a warrant. If you have the evidence and the means and the reason to get a warrant, you're going to get it. And you're not going to go in there and ask and then say, all right, well, we're going to sit out here and wait, until we get a judge, or we're going to have somebody come in behind us. No.
Well, I don't say that they have to have that come behind them. They may well have it in hand, but like I say, in public, it's been stated this week.
Right, but if you're going to do that,
the only one going to be searching the property would be.
Well, that's what Janie said. I mean, that nobody has said anything from RCMP, and Janie hasn't. I asked her. She said that, and that's what she said, or on the live, saying if somebody's going to search my place, it's going to be RCMP. That's not RCMP coming out saying we're going to search their place either. You know what I'm saying? That's her saying that she would allow them. And when I spoke to them, she did say that she would allow them if they did show up. But she said they haven't asked me. And so to me, that's a little bit weird, because you're going out there publicly and you're putting out this publicly that you're going to go and do these searches, yet you haven't asked for permission yet where you're going to do the searches at. And if you were going to go do this knock and talk / special secret warrant, you're not going to go to the public with it. You're not going to go to the media with it. And so in my opinion, you can kind of rule those things out as far as, you can deduce those items out when it comes to, all right,
but maybe that's why they're not searching this weekend.
No, I mean, that's even worse. You're giving them more time to dispose or do something with evidence.
No. But, well, they're watching them. But maybe they don't have the warrant in hand yet, like you say. Maybe they want the warrant in hand when they go, and they got to wait till next week till a judge gets the chance to sign off on the warrant.
Right.
Right? Like, this case is ideological all the way around. It's got intricacies galore, but it's like Charmaine said in the comments, this is where the investigation has them at this point. As same as a month ago when we got the court documents, that's where the evidence had taken the investigation, but that was a month and a half old, and now that's coming up to 3.5 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what I'm trying to say is just that they know that they can get the clearance for the pipeline, because I don't think the pipeline would refuse them. They know they have access to all the waterways. They know they have access to the power line transmission corridor. So I'm not saying, and I don't know where they're going to search in order, or where they're going to search, or what they're going to search. They never told us that. They never told the media that. Or as far as we know, the media never relayed that information, if they did. So I'm just saying, this is where we're at. But as a local, I find it awful hard to believe that these children wandered in the woods, crawled up underneath the tree for protection on Friday night because it rained and blew so hard when the kids went missing that they just crawled up under and they passed away. Them first few hours when the drones and the helicopters were in the air, the flare were picking up heat signatures from rocks covered with moss. So for that first 24 hours, I'm sure the flare would have been able to detect the body.
Right, but the flare only went a half a kilometer out. You know, the documents indicate that the thermal imaging drone only circled half a kilometer away from the property. It wasn't very far out. Right, well, this is the thermal cameras.
But the helicopters have drone or flare capabilities as well.
Right, but I mean, this isn't a very thick place, and we just talked about a situation where a 2-year-old wandered off 7 miles with helicopters above them with thermal, and they were able to find lions and coyotes, but they weren't able to find the little boy, and he wandered off 6 miles on his own, 1 mile with a ranch dog, which ended up getting to the rancher. And this was in a less dense area than out there. This is Arizona, and they still couldn't find him with 2 helicopters in the air. Now I have an image pulled up.
Arizona wouldn't have the coverage of what this place does, Daniel.
What I'm saying is that Arizona, exactly, and so you would have assumed that the helicopters flying in Arizona would have had a lot better luck finding the little boy than they would out here in Nova Scotia because of the density of the area, and they still couldn't find the 2-year-old boy out there. They found 2 mountain lions and some coyotes, but they weren't able to find the little boy.
There would have been a lot, to me, that's just opposite. In Arizona, there's a lot less temperature gradient temperature difference from something that was on the ground because you're in the middle of the desert. It's hot, whether it's in the shade or not. It could be 80, 90, 100 degrees. Where here, the morning they went missing, there was some frost on the ground and it was 3 degrees.
I don't disagree with you, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, it's at the time that they had left, what was the temperature like? And it was in May too, right? So what was the temperature at 9 o'clock in the morning?
3 degrees. That's what I'm saying. That morning, we had a very cold and wet spring. It only got up to, I think it was 7 or 8 degrees in the afternoon that day. It was 3 degrees that morning, foggy. We had a little bit of rain the night before, but it rained a lot of that week, and it absolutely poured and blew Friday night, and then Saturday was the first nice day that week, and I think it got up maybe to 14 or 15 degrees. But what I'm saying is, with the flare, with all the density of the trees and everything else, if the flare was able to pick up a heat signature of a rock covered in moss in that dense forest, the likelihood that the kids were there, this is out just hours after they went missing. This is Friday afternoon. Just hours after they went missing, their body temperature wouldn't have decreased that much, that drastic, because it probably would have been overnight before they succumbed to the weather conditions.
And when you say 3 degrees, you're talking Celsius, right?
3 degrees Celsius, yes.
Okay, all right. So for me,
I'm not talking minus.
I was thinking Fahrenheit. I was like, man, this must have been a blizzard out there. It looked kind of warm to me.
Yeah, no, 3 degrees Celsius. Okay. So whatever that be in the 30s Fahrenheit.
It'd be like almost 40 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what Mike converted it to, was around 41 or 42 degrees, because Mike Demand did the conversion back when it first happened. But what I'm saying is, if they were able to detect a rock and they actually sent searchers to the rock, and when the searchers radio back to where the pin location was that the heat drones went, they said, you sent us to a rock and it's covered in moss.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, because we know the children were still alive Thursday afternoon, if it would have, when we were still dealing with them, not knowing if they were alive from Tuesday afternoon on, and they would have went out searching, now then that would be a different story for the investigation. But knowing that they were alive Thursday afternoon, and the helicopters, one of them, because the other two, there was 3 helicopters in the area, but the other 2 helicopters didn't come from the missing kayaker to the children's search until either later Friday evening, but I believe it was Saturday morning. They only sent 1 helicopter because they hadn't found the body yet of the kayaker that went missing on Tuesday. They found his kayak. They had the statement from the brother where they were in the lake. And so, but the rest of the resources, and that's why the rest of the resources were able to get there so quick, the drone teams and the searchers, because they were already in the county. The helicopters and the dive team stayed back, and it was around 4:30 or 5 p.m. local that they finally found the kayaker's body. The dive team did. And then Saturday, the rest of the people that was involved in the kayak search went from the kayak searcher to the children's search.
Right. So it took them a few days to find the kayaker who was obviously in the water.
Yeah,
right?
he was found at the bottom of the lake. Yep, sadly.
Right. So they knew where he was at, and it still took them a few days. Can you imagine if they don't know where to look, right? Where it's so much vast area. And I'm looking at some Google images right here. And I'm going to make this on the big screen real quick.
Well, it don't matter.
February.
I can't see them because I'm in the comment page. But what
Right.
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. If these dogs come in, and the last point of, we have 3 witnesses telling us that they all heard the children that morning on that property. So if that is the starting point, I can't tell you that it is or isn't. But if that is one of the starting points that they bring the cadaver dogs to, and they don't alert, what I'm hoping is that the people don't turn around on the RCMP and start dragging them down that, oh, well, you took too long, you messed up, whatever.
Cadaver dogs can detect
that
this
they
for
don't alert.
years. Right. But if they don't alert, that just means that then nobody recently died there on the property.
Property.
So yeah, if they don't alert on the property, then that means that nobody recently died there, or at least there wasn't a body there for a while. And
yes.
And what I'm saying, what real quick though, what I want to point out though, is I'm looking at Google imagery of the area, and when I put it into the winter time, especially when it snows, you can see where the trees are, and you can see where the snow is landing on the ground, and you can see how much more open it is during the time of winter or during the cold time than it is in the spring. And so for those that are looking at this, the white area would be, if we were to take the snow out of the way, it would be bare ground. This is what you would be able to see to the ground.
But that's
the trees
probably all bog. A lot of that is probably bog and lake frozen over.
It could be.
It's like, you know what I mean? It's water, especially.
Not when I change it. I mean, it just looks like some open areas. And
but like I say, there is a lot of bogs in the area where it would look like flat field, but it's like muskeg. So the minute that you step out on it, you could go 10 feet down, or you might not go 2 inches down. Depends on your step. And it would definitely depend on the winter that you're looking at, because last winter we had hardly any snow. And that's the thing. We don't get a lot of snow here till mid or late January, because that's the other thing I've seen the last couple of days. AI is saying, oh, well, you've got to find them before the snow comes. Well,
the reason why I wanted to show the snow wasn't because I wanted to show how it would look like in the snow. The snow on the ground accumulated, it comes off as white, right? And so you can see when you're looking at the ground versus if you're looking at and how much more open it is on those ground areas, because you can see where the trees are popping up. And to me, it looks like there's a significant less amount of foliage. And so even though there's not snow there in the wintertime before then, that still does that. What that still means is that there's still going to be less leaves there. The only thing that the snow points to is how much of the visibility from the sky that you can see. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, but what I'm trying to explain is the sky, you don't get, unless it's in a 3D cam, you don't get the deception or perception of depth. So tree cover and the muskeg cover could look the same just directly from the air. But in the wintertime, you would see that it's trees and snow cover, because even the muskeg, like once the frost sets in, then the snow just builds it up on it does open, like an open ground or ice anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, depending on the temperature of the winter, how quick and how much frost is in would display how much of that area is snow, compared to what it might not look like very much at all in the summertime, because the bogs are covered with foliage too, but it's only 2 or 3 inches high above ground.
Right.
Where below ground, like on the solid ground, you have tree coverage, and I would say 80% of the forest coverage is evergreen trees. The rest is brush, alders, grasses.
Right, but it's not necessarily the trees that are being the problem. It's the brush underneath the trees. It's the foliage that is hanging low underneath that is making it difficult to traverse and maybe perhaps even see. Now if you're trying to get a helicopter up there in the sky, you have an excellent point. You're going to have a problem seeing through the trees that are already there. Well, what I'm referring to is on the ground level. Are you going to be able to see further? Are you going to be able to see through the foliage easier from the ground level?
Not necessarily, because we heard the searchers talking about you could go to step over 2 trees, and if you don't watch your step, you could be over a 20-foot cliff. That's why they didn't. That's why they didn't want.
Right. No, and I 100% think that that's plausible. What I'm saying is, in the wintertime or in the fall time, is it easier to see through that underbrush than it is during
what I'm saying, at the time when the kids went missing, it wasn't growing yet. Like it wasn't all.
I mean, I saw the searchers walking through it. I mean, it was early May. This would have been after spring. They look like they were. I mean, again, they look like they were walking through quite a bit of it.
Oh yeah, it's the brush and the bramble. Like that's the worst of it. Like you can get thorn bushes, right? And you're above them when you're walking through them. But to get through them, they're catching on your clothing and whatever. And
no, I agree. I agree that there's those things that exist. Now you mentioned that there's some steep hills and things of that nature. I mean,
oh yeah, like cliffs, like just fall off into a ravine. You're at the base of Mount Tom. Like that's where this area is located. If you were driving on the highway going from Pictou County to Turl, once you pass the turnoff to go to where Daniel and them live, you start going up Mount Tom, and it's like 1,800 and some feet elevation, right? And that's what that area is. That's why there's no cell coverage. Like our county has pretty good cell coverage, except in the areas where you're out there. Like you could go 5 steps one way down the road, and you might pick it up, or you might have to go 100 feet down the road. It's because and right where they're at, they're in the gully of it. There's hills on both sides of them going up.
And this is Kent, by the way, guys. I don't have anybody's face out here, but we're speaking with Kent. To me, that seems to be another possibility of, if these kids wandered off and not familiar with the area, they may have found themselves in trouble in a situation where they stepped off of something like that.
It's possible.
You know what I'm saying? And so to me, like everything that I have heard so far, and I've talked to Janie a little bit, and she told me some things that are really relative to the case. Some things that, there was some, that the kids went out there and played in the fort with other kids, or in the wooded area. And that some of the other kids that had been there in the past had taken backpacks with snacks and stuff like that. I asked her, I was like, well, shoot. I mean, Lily took off with her backpack. Was there snacks or anything missing? She don't know. She doesn't remember. She didn't. That wasn't something that they went to go look for. You know what I mean? Kids go missing. You're not going to go and check the fridge, and so she don't know. And so to me, you know, you got some young kids who are very impressionable, in my opinion, and you know, if they're seeing other kids out there who are possibly going into the woods, possibly taking snacks and things of that nature, having a good time. If they see them having fun, they're going to want to go out there and try to have fun too. You know what I mean? And so I just strongly suspect that they wandered off back there. And I think that there's a good possibility that at some point somebody else came. I mean, not somebody, but an animal or something scared them.
Well, I think if they walked on the woods, they would probably walk in the woods in the areas where Daniel and Janie and whoever else took them for walks would go, whether they were going to their little cabins or whatever. So I think they would be on the four-wheeler pathways or abandoned driveways or whatever it is you want to call them. They're not actual maintained four-wheeler trails, but they're definitely trails that run from property to property. And you can say that kids are stupid or kids are smart, but I know if I could walk down a trail or a road, if I was doing something, even if I was looking for something particular, I would be doing that than going through the woods where Jack isn't tall. Jack could go underneath of everything. Lily would either have to crawl or climb to go over top. And most kids like climbing, so I'm not saying that she did. But I'm just saying the terrain, I think, would, if they're in the woods, would push them to the pathways. And that's probably the areas when that Daniel or whoever at any other time that they went walking in the woods, I suspect that they would be walking on the pathways and not through.
Well,
the
I mean, you know, you got some kids who are very, very young, 4 and 6 years old. And, you know, these are very, very young kids whose minds aren't developed yet. And, you know, decision-making may not all be 100% there like you and I, who have fully matured brains and things of that nature. And so then there's also the possibility of them getting turned around. I mean, I've said this before. I've gone out there to go camping out here in Campwood one time, and I left, was going to head towards the river. And next thing I know, I ended up at the cabin right next to me. I'd done a complete circle and turned around. It wasn't just me. It was me, my wife, and my buddy of mine who were all out there. And we all got turned around. And it's nowhere near as dense or anything like that. And there was just one walking trail, and then there was another walking trail, and then another walking trail that at one point, I don't even think we were actually on a walking trail. We just kind of walked on what we thought was a trail. And it was, you know, probably some animal trail. And you are probably going to find some of those things way back out there in this wooded area. I think there's so many possibilities of which direction they could have gone into, which trail they may have walked up. If they got turned around at some point, you know, they may have thought they were going back to their house, but in reality going further and further away. I mean, there's so many possibilities is what they could have, you know, how they could have gone out there. Now, Janie did message me, and I'm actually going to try to call her here in the next minute or two, but she wanted me to tell you that no search warrant will be needed if the RCMP needs to go and search their property.
And that's what I stated, that he stated all week when the other ones were talking about in Facebook posts and stuff. She said that if the RCMP come asking, they can come and search. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if they need the search warrant.
Yeah, but if you're bringing dogs from a very far away, I don't care what somebody says on YouTube. I'm going to want to get permission written and or get a warrant before I ship out dogs from far away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I was advising with the ones that were working with bring them home. I said, make sure you have waivers as well, because the property can be dangerous from what searchers have told us. Mm-hmm. And to clear the property owners in case someone falls down a ravine or a tunnel or whatever and gets hurt, that they can't go back on the property owners. And we know it's very dense and very easy to get turned around because Daniel told us this week when he was searching, he got turned around at one point and had to use his phone GPS, whatever the Google Maps or whatever it is, to get back out.
Yeah.
So it's very, like myself, I bet you I could go 10 feet in the woods from my home, turn one circle, and walk. I could be thinking I'm walking in the direction to get out of to my house, and I'd be going in the definite opposite direction. That's me. Because as soon as I can't see a landmark, I'm done for. I can't read. I can't read a compass. I couldn't, like, I do that, whatchamacallit grows on the north side of trees, but which direction is north? I couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I hear you. Me and the wife, we one time went four-wheeling out there in the Colorado mountains, and we kind of got lost because we went around a tree that was covering a trail, and then we went down another trail, and before we knew it, we ended up finding our way out, but we ended up in the very beginning part of the trail, completely opposite of what we thought we were. And it was crazy because it began to rain a little bit. So there was clouds. We couldn't see where the sun was at. Couldn't tell which direction we were going. No cell service, no nothing. And so, yeah, 100%. I mean, and again, we're grown adults out there, 4 and 6 year old in the middle of the wilderness. I mean, they could have gone in a number of directions, but I want to say thank you, Kent, for joining me, for calling in. I'm going to try to get Janie on the line real quick.
Okay, that'd be interesting.
All right, take it easy, Kent. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All righty. Yes, I had opened up for anybody to call in. Janie called me a minute ago. Let me see if I can get her on the line. And I don't know if she's going to answer, but let me see. I hope I can get this going here. Okay. All right. Hello? All right, one second. How's it going, Janie? How are you doing?
Good.
You are live on the air, so just wanted to let you know we are live.
Okay. Just to clear up a few things, the investigators, RCMP, anybody to do with law enforcement is welcome to come on this property and do what they have to do.
Have you
I
been?
just wanted to clear that up.
And have they contacted you yet?
No, they haven't, and they haven't contacted Daniel neither.
And so they've not asked you if they can come on the property?
No, they haven't.
Have they asked you in the past?
Yes, they have. But I also told them that they didn't need my permission to come on here. They could come anytime they wanted to come. Perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you guys are opposing anything from what I can see.
Nothing to hide. And another thing I wanted to state too is Sonny says that for people to go out and search the property out around here. Well, I'm just going to mention something. I already discussed that with the investigators, and the investigators said it would be in our best interest not to let anybody on the property because I could get in a lot of trouble. As Kent said, if somebody falls and breaks their leg or gets hurt in any way, I am liable for them.
That and these individuals aren't law enforcement. I mean, as much as a lot of people think that they're put on this earth to solve cases without any experience or education or training, is beyond me. You're not. Don't go on anybody's property. That's how people get hurt. That's how people end up getting shot. They wandered into the wrong property, and somebody with a gun who don't like them on their property ends up expressing themselves in one form or fashion. Now, I'm not sure how the laws are out there, if you're allowed to have guns on your properties and things of that nature, but don't be going on anybody's property, guys. You've told me that you've seen, though, a number of people that have driven by your property, drones and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes, we have people driving by here. Actually, I have signs up that say no trespassing at private drive, but people still have the balls, to stop in our driveway. And when we walk out to the end of the driveway to see what they want, they put their car in reverse and they take off up the road. They turn up at the Lansdowne Station road, come back again and just drive by. Mm-hmm. And we also have drones that go here all night. Yeah. I don't know why, if they like to watch a 60-year-old woman, and a 34-year-old boy sleep, that's their choice. Another thing I'd like to clear up what Kent is saying. Kent has never been on this property. So nothing against you, Kent, but if you don't know what you're talking about, don't say nothing. My brothers and myself, like my family is originally from here. My brother Ron lives in the homestead, so I grew up here. And my brothers have grown up here. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister. They have grown up in this area. We know this area like the back of our hands. Now, as far as Ken is saying about sinking in bogs 10 feet deep, no, that's not true. There is no such things as the bogs around here. And as far as Steve Cliffs goes, as far as I know, and my brothers have searched this property, searched all around here. The only big cliff on this property is just up back of my house here, and it has been searched.
Good deal. Good to know.
So,
one question, Janie. How much property
Sure.
do you own? How big is your property?
I own 2.2 acres.
Okay, so a lot of the surrounding area isn't even your property, correct?
No, mostly all the property that is out here is privately owned.
Okay.
The only place that is Scott Paper or owns back of my place here. I don't know how many acres, but there's another friend of the family that owned this property. The son of the fellow that owned this property before I bought it. He owns 100 acres up back. And another thing I wanted to mention is the trails that you were talking about. The only trail that would be a very access for the kids to go if they did wander it would be the road that's up the top of my place, up the top of the hill here, that goes through and goes up and goes out through the pipeline. All the other trails grew up with altars. Very difficult to walk through.
So the trail with the pipeline, is that the same pipeline where the footprints or the boot prints were found?
No, that is up the Lansdowne Road.
Oh,
so
okay.
if you leave my place, okay, come out of my driveway and turn right and go up the road and you pass the tracks, and then you go to your right again up the dirt road, the Lansdowne Road, and you go up there. The pipeline that their tracks were found on was up there on your left-hand side. The blanket was found just before the pipeline on a road that Scott Paper had put in. That is like a government thing that they go up there and they cut pulpwood and that. It's government owned.
How many ways can you walk there? Is it just one way that you have to walk down the street and up the street, the main streets to get there? Or are there alternative paths through the back to get there through some of these 4-wheeler drives?
Through the pipeline?
Yeah, where the
pipeline where the footprint was found.
Correct.
The only way you can get through there, if you go up the road up by the top of my hill, if you go up that road and you go up through the woods and you go down the pipeline, you can go down through that way, but you have to cross over the railroad tracks, a brook, and then the railroad tracks.
But you can get there. That's not the main drive. Like you don't have to necessarily walk on the street to get there, correct?
You can go up the Lansdowne Road.
Okay.
And the pipeline, if you go up the Lansdowne Road from the 289 and you go up the Lansdowne Road and on your left is the pipeline, you can only walk through the pipeline. You can go up there with a 4-wheeler.
Yeah.
But for a vehicle to get up there, no, you can't drive a vehicle on the pipeline.
But you can walk
4-wheeler,
there.
yes. You can walk up the pipeline, yes.
Okay. And
but I'm not sure how far the footprint was found. Malaya just sent me a picture and I sent it to you. That's the only picture I've seen of that footprint. I don't know how far up there it was found or not. I have no clue.
Just a couple of background questions. Have you or your son ever lawyered up?
No, we haven't.
Have you ever turned down any interrogation or interview by law enforcement?
I'm going to tell you something right now. I've called 6 lawyers so far to try to get access to see my grandchildren, and everyone has turned me down because of this here investigation going on with Jack and Lilly. No one will take my case because of all of this.
Maybe we can find a lawyer somewhere that would be willing to help you. If anybody who can hear this that is able to practice out there in Nova Scotia, give us an email, drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. See if we can help her out. you know, when it came to your son, he turned over his phone. Has he ever been defensive about anything when it comes to law enforcement?
No, Daniel has cooperated with the investigators through all of this. Same with myself. We have cooperated with them. I haven't seen them now, and I'm going to explain. The last time I have seen the investigators was 2 weeks ago when they came to pick up Jack and Lily's belongings.
When was the last time
Malaya
they
was told-
talked to you about the case in particular?
They haven't talked to me about the case at all.
Well, when was the last time? I mean, obviously in the beginning they must have. Like, have
They
they?
did.
Have they since the polygraph tests?
Since the polygraph tests, they haven't talked to me at all about, they just told me when I took my polygraph test that it was inconclusive because of a heart problem I have. I asked if I could take it again, and they told me that it would be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no reason for me to take another one because it's going to turn out the same way.
So you
But
would
I
say,
volunteered to take another one.
so you would say that the investigators have decreased their communication with you guys since then?
Yes, as I said, with any information, I have not heard from them. As I was going to say, the last time I seen the investigators that were on this property was about 2 weeks ago when they came to pick up Jack and Lily's belongings that Malaya had requested.
Yeah.
And we gave them that stuff for them to take to Malaya.
Yeah.
And there was 6 bags of Jack and Lily's clothes that were turned over to the investigators. Nothing of Malaya's because there was nothing of Malaya's here.
Right. Yeah, you've explained to me that all of Malaya's belongings were already gone by then.
Yes, when she did laundry over Wednesday, the only thing we could figure out, Daniel and I, is when she did laundry Wednesday at her grandmother's.
Yeah.
She didn't return any of her belongings at all. It was Jack and Lily's and Daniel's clothes, and very few of Meadows.
You know, I've heard some rumors that some folks have said that you may have heard a woman saying shush or something of that nature outside that morning. Just to clarify for everybody, what all did you hear that morning?
What all I heard was Friday morning. After my brother had called me, I laid down and my dog started barking and I could hear Jack and Lily outside talking and laughing. I did not hear no woman shush. So I'm just going to clear this up. That came from, I'm sorry, Darren, but that came from Darren and Belinda. And I've talked to Belinda and I did not mention anything about a woman shush. Now, Belinda and I had a talk and I told Belinda everything that happened that morning.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same thing that I have told in my interview and to the investigators. And I've been trying to continue to say what had happened, but you know what the internet is like.
Yeah. There's a bunch of folks who will throw out a bunch of theories without any evidence just because it sounds good, you know, in their mind, it sounds good. And so, no, I understand completely. You know,
There's just one point I like to put across. I had nothing to do with anything to do with Jack and Lily.
right.
And why would I not, if I knew where Jack and Lily were, why I would tell the investigators where I knew Jack and Lily were? Because do you think I like living this life? Do you think I like all these accusations and all these rumors going on? I do not like it. Nobody would like it. I really hope Jack and Lily are found. And when they are found, I hope they go to a good home. I really do. And in my heart, I believe Jack and Lily are still alive. And I will to this day that I die, till I die. But I did not have nothing to do with Jack and Lily's disappearance or unaliving those children.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't sound like the RCMP believe it either. You know, it seems like they've cleared all of you guys, to be honest with you. You know, they've done their investigation. It seems like it was exhaustive. Before the lie detector test, how often was RCMP contacting you and Daniel?
They would come when this first all happened. They were here. I'd say maybe twice, 3 times a week, and then as things eventually got going, we'd hardly ever see them. I hardly ever seen them. Now Daniel is in more contact with them than I am.
Yeah. And is that
So
because
that's
he
the
wants to
question that-
contact them, or is that because they're contacting him?
No, he usually goes and sees them to see how things are going. But myself, I don't bother with them at all. If they have anything that they need to ask me, they can call me. I told them that already. Just if you want to know anything, just call me. I said, I got nothing to hide.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy situation. I know a lot of,
Yes, it is.
it's a scenario where we don't know the answers to, and when some people don't know the answers, they start making up their own answers, and it's a slippery slope. I feel for you and your family and all the problems that you guys are going through.
Thank you.
It's to also be missing children and then have the world accuse you at the same time is it's unimaginable. I'd understand if you guys lawyered up, if you guys didn't want to take a lie detector test, if you guys refused to hand over your phones or bank records, if you guys refused to hand over your locations, I'd 100% be like, hey, there's some shadiness going on here. But the amount of cooperation that you guys have had and them not being able to find something is extremely telling to me.
As I said, we're cooperating with them to the fullest, and they're more than welcome here anytime, as I said.
Yeah.
Daniel, he is cooperating 100% with the investigators. As you said, a little things get screwed up when things are asked, but you just got to remember, how many times have we been asked these same questions over and over and over again, and it doesn't seem to matter. We answer the questions, but still people don't listen. Like, as I'm going to mention, like the neighbor saying that he heard a 5-speed car.
Yeah.
We did not hear no 5-speed car. About having a party that Thursday night, we had no party. I would never allow that on my property.
Well, it's easy to figure out if you had a party. I mean, for one, when people go to your house, let me ask you this. When people go to your house, do they have to connect to your Wi-Fi to use their phones?
Yes, they do.
Do
We
people
have no cell
often
service here.
ask you to do that? Like your friends, do they have, like when you do have friends come over, do they connect to your Wi-Fi?
Do you want to know the truth?
Yeah.
None of my friends ever come out here to visit me.
Well, if I were to
And
go out there to visit you, would I need to
you'd have-
connect? And would you allow
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Okay. And so
Yes.
I would assume that if you had friends that went, these are people that you're probably going to give them your Wi-Fi information, like save it on their phone. Like for me, I don't give anybody my password, but I'll be like, hey, give me your phone. I'll log into the Wi-Fi, save it, like, always connect or whatever. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to figure out if people are in the area, with their phones and geofencing and checking the router from your Wi-Fi. It would have been very easy to determine if you guys had a party and a group of people that were out there the night before.
Yeah, and another thing too, in the last 2 years since Malay and Daniel been living in my trailer,
Yeah.
the only ones that ever came to visit on this property when they lived here was Cindy and Wade, and they only came about 5 times. Cindy and Wade never came to any of Jack and Lily's birthday parties.
Mm-hmm.
Patty and Hayden have been here because, Patty came first by herself, but since Patty got sick, Hayden has been driving her. And they came to Jack and Lily's birthday parties all the time. But as far as anybody else visiting, no, nobody's ever come here to visit Malaya since she's been here.
Yeah. But they've been there, 2 years, you said?
It was 2 years in August since they moved in here.
And did Malaya seem like she wanted to be there in the end?
At first, really, she had, her situation with her grandmother, I don't know what happened there. But the thing is they called me on a Monday, and Daniel called me on a Monday and asked me if they can move into the trailer. And I said, yes. I said, when are you moving? And he said, we don't know yet. And the next thing I know, they were moving in on that Friday. So I had 4 days to find somewhere to live.
Oh, geez. And
So
so, because I was reading the report, and I've talked to some people that are close to Malaya, some of her family members, and it sounds like, to me, my perception is that she was not happy there. Now, I don't necessarily believe or know for a fact one reason or another why, but I do believe that she wanted to maybe perhaps leave Daniel. I think she was telling her friends and family things so that way they wouldn't judge her if she left another man, another father of her kids. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what that was the impression that I got off of speaking with people who are kind of close. Did you get that impression in the last couple of weeks or anything, that maybe perhaps the relationship was not going to last?
I heard from a source that she was planning on leaving Daniel 2 weeks prior to before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
She was happy when she first came here because she had a place to live. They had a place to live rent free.
Yeah.
Rent free, people. The only thing they had to do was pay the power bill. But after I asked them how long they were going to stay, and they said till after Meadow was born, the baby was born, and they said it was only temporary.
Yeah.
2 years later, they were still here. So if she didn't want to be here, she could have left anytime she wanted to. Nobody was holding her back.
No, yeah, I know. But for a young lady who, she has 2 kids from one man, now has another child from another man, I can see how that can be a daunting conversation to have with her parents and her family. And for whatever reason, and I can see somebody, saying, being more open about certain things, maybe even stretching certain things so that way they won't be judged for leaving that scenario. Not saying that that's exactly what happened. I have no idea, but just kind of saying it did kind of seem like they were, or that she was ready to go. And that doesn't mean that I think she did anything to these kids. It doesn't make sense to me. And I've told you that, Janie, that it doesn't make sense for Malaya to have abducted her own kids like this, to me, at least.
Well, she didn't have any problem leaving Patty's house, and Daniel lived there with them.
That's true.
She wouldn't have had any problem leaving here, and Daniel lived with her here.
Right. No, I get that. And, last couple questions I have for you before we get too long. Fall's coming. How much of a difference? I know right now it's not a big difference, but as fall progresses, as we go into October, how does the landscape change?
Just the leaves fall. The landscape doesn't change at all. The leaves just fall off the trees.
So you can see further though.
Out here. Huh?
You can see a little. Can you see further? Maybe not like a tremendous amount. I'm not thinking that you could see miles, but is it easier to see through the underbrush, what's under the trees during the fall versus maybe perhaps in May?
No, not really.
Okay.
Because when we had that there, whenever we had that I forget. The storm.
Yeah.
It's been the same way. It hasn't changed any at all. And as I said, when we used to take the kids for walks, Daniel and I, we used to take the grandchildren and for walks, and I'd end up carrying Jack through the woods because he wouldn't walk because it's that bad. As I said, all the trails here are either blowing down or they grew up. These trails haven't been used out here in years. So the only trail that's normally used is the old road up the top of the hill here to the pipeline is the only one that's used.
But that's a different pipeline than the boots, right?
It's the same pipeline, but it's cut in half. It's cut in half because of the Lansdowne Road. You can go up back of my house to the pipeline, you cross the railroad tracks, and then you cross the Lansdowne Road, and then you go back on the pipeline again.
So the only trail that's accessible right now, or at that time, just so happened to be the same trail where they found boot prints, correct?
Yeah, well, the pipeline is all open. Like, I mean, it's an open space.
Right.
Like, I mean, they keep it trimmed.
Right. You see, I mean, that to me, that just kind of leads more into what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? It'd be different, you know, and
That's
to me,
quite a walk for two kids through the woods, and I'm a grown up, and it takes me quite a while to walk from here to my brother's house.
no, I know. There was a 2-year-old though that walked through Arizona desert, 7 miles. 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well, as I said, I'm an adult, and it takes me quite a while to walk. Even if I went through the trail, it's going to take me quite a while to walk through a trail.
I mean, average foot
Especially-
speed about, let's just say they're going slow at 3 miles an hour. I mean, if it's 40 minutes that they were out there walking, I mean, that's 2 miles, 2+ miles that
Yeah.
they would have gotten. And that's at a very snail
Well-
pace.
It's 1.5 miles from my door to my brother's door. 1.5 miles.
See, and in 40 minutes, they could have gotten further than that.
Not Jack. No, because Jack always stopped to look for bugs, even out here in the yard when the other kids wanted to play with him. He was too busy looking for bugs.
Would he
Jack
chase
was a
something?
curious little boy.
Would he chase something like a rabbit or anything?
No.
Okay.
He doesn't even bother with my cats.
Oh, okay. Just bugs.
No. Just bugs. That's all he was interested in. Yep.
What about
He would
flying
turn up
bugs?
he would watch them, but he would never, if he knew he couldn't catch them, he wouldn't chase them.
Okay.
He would just stand there and look and say, look, a bug.
Interesting.
No, those kids, no. The only reason why we took off and looking in the woods, if we thought that they would be at at their little cabins,
Yeah.
that's the only reason why we took off in the woods. Because when she said they were missing 20 minutes, that's the automatic. You're automatically going to think, check the woods. But when we checked the woods, Daniel went in Malaya's vehicle and went up the old road and everything, right up to the pipeline, and never seen them. And I met him at the top of the hill up here on the old road and asked him if he found them, and he said no. After that, I searched around the place here. I went up to the old schoolhouse and the camp up there, and the neighbor up there owned 6 acres, and I walked up there, and I came around back, and that was 6 acres, and I walked around and did the whole circle and came right back down and came back down again.
How long did that take you?
Oh, I wasn't looking at the time, honestly.
Mhm.
As I said, like we have no phone reception out here at all.
Yeah. No,
Now,
I get that.
I can get phone reception up here at the Lansdowne Road up here at my mailbox.
Mhm.
But anywhere else on this property, the only place you get reception going towards town is at the New Lyric Cemetery Road. Is where we get our next cell service signal.
Yeah.
We have no cell service out here at all. That's why I have Wi-Fi calling.
See, and that would make things a little bit easier to find too. So to kind of try to figure out if somebody was in that area, because of the cell service, it would be very difficult to try to pinpoint somebody's location, right? It would be difficult to pinpoint someone's location in this area using advanced call timing records. Now, what you would be able to determine is if somebody lost service or not, if there was a blink, if the phone dropped from the, if you do a series of tests and figure out, hey, this phone here was connected to the tower and then it dropped off and then it reconnected 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes earlier. Well, if you know where your dark spots are, then you can kind of say, all right, even though there's a 5 to 10 mile radius of accuracy, in this 5 to 10 mile radius, your dark spots are right here. Right. And so you can kind of determine, oh, hey, look, this phone here lost service for X amount of time and then regained service. We might want to go talk to them because they're in that dead zone that is Daniel in your home. And so it would make it somewhat easier to figure out if somebody was in the immediate vicinity, so to speak, if we're finding a phone going in and out of service. Does that make sense?
I guess I don't know, because I mean I lived out here for 26 years and never had no cell service, so I don't know.
No, well, what I'm trying to say
I
is like if I was investigating this, right? If I was the lead investigator and they're like, all right, we have these missing kids, I'm going to geofence all the phones in the area. And then I'm going to figure out that the accuracy isn't very high. And I'm going to try to figure out where the dark spots are. Where is it that the phone doesn't catch service? And so that'll tell me, if I start seeing phones blinking in and out of service, that those phones are in that vicinity and in that area, and I need to talk to them, especially if their phone had service earlier, didn't have service during the 40 minutes that the kids go missing, and then somehow regain service after that. That's going to be super telling, if you're able to see that and be able to tell that, hey, that person was probably in these dark areas that are relatively close to the home, and these are the people that we need to go and talk to. And so that's kind of what's telling me that they probably wandered off.
I mean, before I got Starlink here, I had ExplorerNet, and we couldn't get phone service. So if I wanted to make a phone call to somebody, I would have to get the best service to get around here would be the McLeod Road. So I'd have to drive. If I wanted to make a phone call, I'd have to get in my car and drive down the road to the McLeod Road and sit there and make my phone call.
Right. And
up here at the mailboxes up at the Lansdowne Road, it's hit and miss with the cell service. Same with the Lyric Road.
But Malaya said that if you stand in a specific spot inside your house, you can hit service, right?
Once in a while, if you're lucky.
Right. And so it sounds like it's very right. So it sounds like it's a limited amount of area. It's not like a vast miles one way, miles that way. You're not going to get service. Correct. It's right. It's a very limited area. And
I could tell you from the Lansdowne Road all the way to Brookfield, you have no cell service. From Lansdowne to Brookfield, you have no service out there.
Right. And so
not a bit of service.
But how far do you have to go down the road before you get service again?
To the McLeod. Well, you can get service if you're lucky at the Lyric, where it goes up just beside Lansdowne Lake. If you're
How
lucky.
many kilometers is that from where you're out of service?
Geez, about 500 yards or so, just a jump, skip, and a hop.
Yeah, so it's not a very big area. So that area, 500 yards. If you have
give or take, I'm not good at take, I'm not good at measurements. Okay.
Well, even if you put it at a full mile, that's a very small area that you're going to get in and out of service. Now, service towers can usually service miles upon miles. Right. So yes, ma'am goes, well, it's obvious that she said the geofencing if there's no service. Service it's not that there's no service, there's spotty service. So you're still going to get a connection here and there. You're going to get a blink in and out. And what it sounds like is in your area, more so than the other areas around within about a mile, it's more of a dead spot than the other areas that are around your place. I'm assuming that your place is either in a valley or in a peak.
Yes, it's in a hollow.
There you go. And so that would make it easier to determine the phones that you were able to get that were able to connect to the towers. Makes it super easy to figure out which ones were in that area. And so to me,
but as Malaya went through when she made her phone calls, she went through the Wi-Fi.
Right. And then she turned it off so she can call 911 because you can't call 911 through the Wi-Fi. And she also turned in her phone, which has a GPS chip. The GPS chip is a lot different than what the advanced call timing records and not having service have anything to do with. The GPS chip is going to be super accurate, which is why like some folks will say, well, if it's inaccurate and you can't tell where they're at, how can you tell about where where Malaya and Daniel are? Well, they both turned in their phones and allowed and gave and written off where you can GPS search them and GPS locate them. So it's not like the advanced time records. It's 100% different. And when you have their phone, it is a lot more accurate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. No, as I said, like I just got my phone through Starlink now, so I don't have to run up the road now to make a call. So,
Well, that's good.
which is good.
That's good.
Yes, it is. Very good.
Well,
So, but if there's any questions that you have that you want answered, give me a shoot, because I have nothing to hide. I will answer any questions. If anybody has any questions for you now, if you want to continue, I will answer them.
yes, ma'am. Well, I appreciate you, Miss Janie. Thank you so much for answering the call. You have yourself a great night, and I'll talk to you next time. Okay.
You too. Thank
All right.
you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All righty, guys. That was Janie McKenzie, the mother of Daniel Martell, who was the stepfather of Lilly and Jack. What if someone doesn't have a phone? All righty. So what if they don't have a phone? Well, then that means that this is clearly a crime of opportunity, and they just so happen to be driving around when they saw the kids either wandering off or they happen to wander into their backyard while they're playing. And if there is some sort of connection between them and Malaya and Daniel, and we're looking at a youngster without a phone. How do they even know them? What is their business with them, with the person without the phone? If you think that this is somebody who purchases something, because I know that there's all these rumors that Daniel sells or buys drugs, which I think is completely easy to prove if that was the case, right? If he sold drugs, where's he getting the drugs from? Is he making it? Well, if he's making the drugs, especially if it's like meth and stuff, that has to be cooked. There's chemicals and there's a bunch of stuff that happens. There's a smell that is that you can that lingers and stuff like that. It's so easy to figure out if they're selling it. Where's the finance records to prove that the money coming in, going out, the phone records for people wanting to purchase and sell narcotics? And some people might say, oh, well, maybe he had a burner phone. I mean, you're going way too complicated. For one, Daniel and Janie seem like country folks to me. Very simple, not the most tech savvy of individuals. And even if they were, drug dealers, drug folks that sell drugs and buy drugs aren't criminal masterminds. They leave a lot. It's not hard to find evidence in that, with financial records, with the phone, looking up the data. If they deleted those things, then you have a history of the deletion. You have missing records. You have factory reset deletes that you can look into. And all those things are going to equal suspicion, and then probable cause for warrants, which they haven't gotten. And RCMP has had nothing but the opposite, saying that there's no evidence of any of this, of any of it. If the guy was buying drugs, how is he feeding his habit, working one day at the sawmill? What is he doing that is giving him the money so that he can go and buy drugs? Because it's an expensive habit. A lot of people go freaking super broke, lose everything that they have, go homeless when they're buying things like that. This guy's working one day a week. What is he doing? Where's the evidence of him stealing, or what is he doing to get the money to buy these things? And where's the evidence of that money transaction? Where's the buys? Where's the purchases? Where's the orders? Hey, I want to pick up. I want to re-up. You got an 8-ball. You got this. You got that. Where's the snow conversations? Where's the meth conversation? How many tablets? Where are these things at? They don't exist. They don't exist except in the minds of some folks who want to come up with some theories that make things make sense in their own mind without looking at all the facts or the details or the information. And when you start to look at it all and say, all right, well, let's break down each theory one step at a time. What is your theory? You think that they did something? Okay, so where's the evidence? They searched their property. They searched the house. Didn't sound like there was a cleanup done. So did they clean up and then re-dirty the house before law enforcement got out there? No sign of anything. It's with the amount of cooperation that they have done, I find it that law enforcement would have found something. There's no way you cooperate that much, and then you have your two prime suspects, Daniel and Malaya, no longer talking to each other. They have separated themselves. That is what you want. One of the biggest fears you have as an investigator when you have two suspects is that they're going to cohort, they're going to talk to each other, and they're going to come up with a story that's airtight, and they're going to cover, they're going to be each other's alibis. They're going to do this and that. An investigator's dream is to separate them and turn them against each other. And in this scenario, that has happened. They have separated them, and they have doubts. I mean, well, I don't know about Malaya. I've never spoken to Malaya. But I have spoken to Daniel, and Daniel, thinks in some part of his head and brain that, in his mind, that it's possible that Malaya had the kids abducted and taken to reservation land and all this other stuff. And he's not the only one. I've heard multiple people come up with this theory. To me, it doesn't make any sense. They just don't. If CPS, the reservation CPS wanted to go in there and they had permission from Malaya, all they had to do was get Malaya to sign some documents instead of this elaborate hoax and not ever notify RCMP and let them do all these searches and expend all this money and effort. And then now they're going to go back out there and fly in cadaver dogs and all this other stuff without do you think they would have done any of this if they had any sense of iota sense that perhaps the Malaya knows where the kids are and that they're not out there? No, that's not how it works. You get what I'm saying? So they're not going to go through the effort of spending this amount of money and time, waste people's time if they knew where they were already. So, but you have Daniel who and his beliefs are because of the reaction of Malaya. A lot of people have had these beliefs, that Malaya left too soon. She didn't care. She doesn't come out. She doesn't talk. But you know who she's cooperated with? Law enforcement. She's given up her phone. She's done the polygraph test. She's given up her banking information, location information, has gone in and testified multiple times or has gone in and been interrogated multiple times by RCMP. She's done just as much with law enforcement as Daniel has to clear her. And from the understanding is she's been cleared. So I'm not one to make more victims out of a tragedy. And so I'm not going to go and point at Daniel and Malaya, especially when law enforcement has given us nothing to point in their direction. In fact, they have said the exact opposite. In fact, I did have Sunny from It's Crime and Shame on the channel once, or here recently on this topic. And I asked her, I was like, look, let's look at Moscow, Idaho, where they knew that Jack Decor, Jack Showalter, the hoodie guy, anybody at the grub truck, the persons that called 911, the surviving roommates, they knew that they didn't, they had nothing to do with the crime. And in their press release, in efforts to calm down the rumors that were going on and flying about in that case, they came out saying at this time, we do not believe that these people are involved. You look at what the RCMP does. They say there's no grounds for criminal intent. There's no criminal offense that have occurred. And we have done this with the intention to eliminate that possibility. And they have done the investigation to eliminate them as suspects. I mean, verbiage that I mean, to the extreme to say, without them saying without a shadow of a doubt, 100%, we believe they're not involved. They have gone basically 99% there, where they've said that they don't believe that they've done anything. And so to me, the cadaver dogs is bringing them out without asking for permission from Barbara. I mean, not Barbara. I'm sorry, Barbara. I know you're in the live chat. From Janie to go out there and look and fly in these dogs before they have some sort of written agreement or any of those things, and that be the grounds of their search. It's not the case. If that was the grounds of their search, that they were going to go in there and search their property, for one, they wouldn't have put it out there to the media. They would have just shown up if they would have believed that there was some sort of foul play. But the very first sentence in their article is RCMP still believes that they have no evidence to believe that they are no longer with us, Jack and Lilly, which means they have zero evidence to believe that either an accident or a homicide occurred with them, and that they don't believe that that be the case given the information and the verbiage they have. I hope all this makes sense, guys. I hope this all makes sense. Oh, gosh. I was on here for more than 2 hours. I didn't realize that. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Please hit the like button. And I heard you wear sunglasses at night. Is that true? I do wear my sunglasses at night. Let's see. I was wearing my sunglasses. I always wear my sunglasses at night. How's that song go? my sunglasses at night. I don't remember the rest of it. All righty, guys. Well, you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. If you guys are watching this on the replay, let me know what you guys think in the comment section about the case and where we're going with it. I'm going to try to get, Daniel and can you hear my wife? She's over here singing. So I can. Yeah, there you go. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Guys, I'll see you guys probably tomorrow or maybe Sunday. I know I got to do a members only. I'll probably do the members only on Sunday. So with that being said, everybody have a good night. Be safe. Peace out.